In this lesson, we will look at fractions and how we can subtract with unlike denominators. As we begin our work today and begin taking our notes, please start by writing down the steps that you see on the screen in front of you. We're going to first rename the fractions using the least common denominator. We will regroup if necessary. We're going to subtract the numerators of our fractions then. We'll subtract the whole numbers, and then we'll simplify our answer. So let's try this. Our first problem is 3/4 minus 1/3, and we need to start with a common denominator. We'll go to 12ths. So 3/4 is the same as 9/12, and 1/3 is going to be the same as 4/12. We're going to subtract the numerators. We're going to leave that denominator. We don't have any whole number portions to subtract, so we need to look at simplifying. This fraction's already in simplest terms, or simplest form, so we are finished with this one. Our next puzzle, 5/8 minus 1/4. My common denominator on that would be 8, so I can just rewrite that first fraction. 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. Do our subtraction on the numerator. This fraction's already in simplest form, so you are finished with this one. Alright, it's your turn to try the next two puzzles, so pause the video, write these puzzles down. Remember all the steps that you need to take, use your notes that you just wrote, restart the video to check your work. Alright, in the first puzzle, our least common multiple for 4 and 8 would be 8. So we're going to use an equivalent fraction for 3/4. We can now subtract the numerator, and you should wind up with 1/8 on this one. On the next puzzle, I need to use tenths because 2 is not a factor of 5. So I will have to convert 1/2 to 5/10, and I will have to convert 2/5 to 4/10. Now I can do my subtraction. That fraction's already in simplest form, so we are finished. Alright, the next puzzle involves some mixed numbers. So we're using the same steps we have been taking, but we're going to add in the step of subtracting the whole numbers as we finish our work. So let's start by getting some common denominators here. We will rewrite 8 and 5/6, and we're going to go to sixths for this, so this would be 2/6. We now have 5/6 minus 2/6, so that's going to give me 3/6. 8 minus 2 is 6. And now I can simplify this because 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. And that's all we need to do. Alright, in this case, we don't have a fractional piece on that first number. So this is where we're going to regroup. And we actually do regrouping in real life all the time. So let's use an example here. Let's say that you are at your friend's house at a birthday party, and there are 7 mini pizzas there, 7 personal pizzas. And you decide that you are going to eat an entire pepperoni personal pizza and then half of a cheese pizza. So while you took one whole pepperoni pizza, you actually had to cut one of those others to get the half of the cheese. So in mathematics, we represent that with regrouping. So you took one whole pizza, you regrouped it in halves by cutting it. We're going to do the same thing up here. So let's rewrite the 7 as 6 and 2 halves. And I chose halves because my other number, my 1 and 1/2, is already in halves. So that gives me common denominators right away. So I still have the same value of 7. It's just written differently now. But this allows me to subtract the fractional pieces. So just like in the picture, you took that one pizza that was in 2 halves now and took away a half. That left 1/2 of a pizza. You took away one whole pizza from the remaining 6, so that leaves on the counter 5 whole pizzas and half of another. So regrouping is not a really scary thing. We do it all the time, but we just don't think about it in terms of math calculations. All right, I want you to try this one. In this case, we're going to crop a photo. So you have a 12.5 inch photo, and you're going to take 4/5 of an inch off of that. So that's going to wind up being 12.5 minus the 4/5. So pause the video for a moment. You try this puzzle and then restart to check. All right, calculation-wise, we don't have the opportunity to subtract 4/5 from 1/2 because 4/5 is larger. So we're going to regroup that 12. So let's rewrite the 12 in, actually, let's start by getting a common denominator. I think that might be a little easier. So let's rewrite 12.5 as 12 5/10, and let's rewrite the 4/5 as 8/10. Okay? So now let's take this 12 and regroup it. So we're going to make 12 11 10/10. Okay? But that's added to the 5/10. So remember that piece for our next step. So you see in this portion, we still have the 12 5/10. We have the 12 in parentheses and the 5/10 outside. When we simplify that a little bit, we wind up with 11 15/10. Now remember the other day when we were taking improper fractions and making them mixed numbers and adding them back into our problem? We've just kind of undone that here. We've done the opposite thing. But that allows us now to subtract the 8/10. So let's take the 15 minus 8. That'll give us 7. And then we don't have anything left to subtract from the 11, so that we still have 11 whole. So we've been asked a question in context, so we need to remember our label. But we'll be left with a photo that is 11 7/10 inches long. All right, write down any questions that you had from any of the examples that you saw in this video. Bring them back to class, and we will discuss.